I made $42,076 from 114 orders in just 89 days. This is dropshipping done the right way. In this video, I'll walk you through the exact breakdown, sharing with you not only my revenue, but my actual profit and loss, as well as how I hired and systemized the business, the stock that I've now invested in, how I'm branding the products and getting 5-star Trustpilot reviews, and my exact plan to take this brand all the way to $100,000 a month in revenue. If you're serious about building a real e-commerce brand, something that you can actually scale, exit, and be proud of, then this video is for you. My name's Theo Clarke, and I recently completed a challenge that I documented on YouTube where I took this brand new dropshipping store from $0 to $10,000 in sales in just 32 days. And now I'm documenting my journey taking that exact same store all the way through to $100,000 a month in revenue. So let's jump right in and take a look at the Shopify dashboard to date, and then I'll share with you my actual profit and loss. So as you can see, the store launched on May 2nd, and today is July 30th. Now, we've not actually completed the entire month. We still have all of today and tomorrow for this revenue to pick up even more. But to date, we've generated $42,076 in sales, of which there have been 113 orders. So if we take it back to May, you'll see for the month of May, we generated $8,575 in sales. For June, we had an increase of 69%, and we increased total sales volume to 14,498. And if we take a look at month to date, we've had another increase of 38%, and total sales have increased to $19,002. Now, as I mentioned, we still have all of today and tomorrow to hit that $20,000 mark, which I'm very confident that we will do. You can see the order volume is increasing nicely, and we've done 50 orders so far this month. So how much of that $19,000 is actual profit? Let's take a look at the profit and loss report. Here we have the profit and loss report, which is in alignment with what you've just seen on Shopify. As you can see, $19,000 in orders to date. Seems like there's a mistrack there slightly because we've got 49 as opposed to 50, which we were seeing on Shopify, but never mind. Most importantly, the revenue is the same. Then we have our advertising cost, which is $4,879, all of which has been spent on Google Ads, which is the only channel we're using to generate these sales. Of that $19,000 in revenue collected, $945 of it has gone to the payment processor, which is simply the cost of accepting the transaction. $5,901 has gone on the product and shipping cost, which brings our total expenses, which is cost of goods and cost of sale, to $11,726. If we deduct that from our total revenue, it gives us $7,275 in profit at a 3.89x return on advertising spend, which means for every $1 we spend on Google Ads, we make $3.89. Now, there still are a few other expenses that we do need to consider, which are subscriptions, refunds, and staff costs. As you can see, subscriptions and refunds are minimal, equates to about $500, and at the moment, staff cost is $0. However, at the end of the month, this is going to change slightly. I recently onboarded a customer support virtual assistant who is working a few hours per day for me. But once again, I don't expect this cost to be excessive, most likely just a few $100s at max. But all things considered, as they are as of the 30th of July, we have a total monthly net profit of $6,738 and a net profit margin of 35.46%. In June, our monthly net profit was $5,960, and in May it was $3,709. In total, that's around about $17,000 in net profit. Not bad for a business that I launched just 89 days ago. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that for almost all of July, I've actually been on holiday, on vacation. I arrived here in Bali on July 6th, and I'm here until August 4th. To be completely honest with you, I've barely done any work on this business whilst I've been away, but that was intentional, okay? I worked really hard during Q2, not only building this business and documenting the entire journey on YouTube, but also building my Google Ads Ecom Academy, which is my mentorship program. The only things that I did do whilst I've been away is increase some of my advertising spend on my Google advertising campaigns. In addition to that, I launched in a new market as well, which also contributes to why the revenue has increased this month. But more importantly, at least for me, I also hired a customer support virtual assistant. As I mentioned, I intentionally decided that I wasn't going to do much work whilst I was away. So any time that I was forced to open my laptop to do menial things, it was a little bit irritating, which is actually a good thing because it allowed me to be very mindful of of every time that I'm forced to open my laptop and actually do something to allow the business to keep on running. So I used this to my advantage. I made note of every task that I had to complete whilst I was away and found a way to automate and outsource as much of it as possible. Building this list allowed me to very easily categorize these tasks into different job roles. So I went ahead and built out an entire task list for a customer support virtual assistant before I even hired someone. This is a very useful exercise, first and foremost because it allows you to identify where your time is currently being spent, and more often than not, it's doing things that you as a business owner shouldn't be doing. Secondly, it allows it to be extremely clear when you do decide to hire exactly what that person is then going to be responsible for. And then lastly, you have a clear task list and SOP dashboard that new employee can just jump straight into. Let me show you what this actually looks like in principle. This is what I call my customer support dashboard, and this is the task list that I created for my customer support virtual assistant. You can see it's broken down by week here, determined by the tab. Then we have the actual task here, the frequency at which it needs to be completed, and then a long description further expanding on what the actual task is. Then we have links to relevant documents and SOPs. So as you can see, my customer support virtual assistant is now responsible for checking and responding to emails within the inbox, adding labels so that we can categorize at what stage customer support inquiries are at, such as new inquiry, in progress, or resolved. They also monitor and update our profit and loss tracker, which is the sheet that we were just looking at together a moment ago. They monitor any delayed shipments and then communicate with our fulfillment team and private agent in China. They provide me with a daily report on all of the above. They are to check the stock tracker. So this includes not only our stock, but also stock of these suppliers, which I'm going to touch more on in just a moment. And most importantly, they are to notify me of the stock levels. They're also responsible for processing return requests and issuing refunds. Now, for any of you that are already in e-commerce, specifically dropshipping, you'll know that the majority of dropshippers do not even accept returns, which is illegal, by the way. Instead, what they'll do is they'll wait for a customer to complain for whatever reason and then offer them a partial refund, say 30%, hoping that the customer will just accept that and then leave them alone. If the customer is persistent that they want to return the product and they're not happy with the 30% refund, they'll then offer them an even bigger partial refund of say 50% in the hopes that they will then accept that. And if the customer continues to kick up a fuss, they may even just eventually say to them, you can keep the product for free and we will refund you. But I avoid all of that simply by accepting returns. So I've set up return centers globally in all of the locations that I'm advertising and selling in. And should customers wish to return their product, I provide them with a return shipping label and they can simply return the product back to my return center where the product is then graded and quality checked. Provided that it is still in the original packaging, unused and can be resold, then I proceed to refund the customer. And this is something that I say often, okay? Dropshipping is just the fulfillment method. What we're really building here is e-commerce businesses. How you run your business is going to come down to you and your business etiquette. For me, the customer experience on the back end is just as important as generating that first sale. However, the problem is most dropshippers are just focused on generating as much sales and as much revenue as possible, and past the point of collecting the cash, they don't care about the customers, they don't care about the back end processes. That's why they're never able to build an actual brand, and they jump from trend to trend, launching store after store, because they're not able to build anything that actually lasts. But if they just made some shifts within their business and how they're operating, by actually branding the products, focusing on back-end customer support, they might actually be able to build something that they can one day go on to exit, like I did my first dropshipping business. I launched a store all the way back in 2020, and I went on to exit it in December of 2022. So what I'm doing here isn't new. You know, I've been doing it for the past 5 years, and it just comes down to how you actually want to run your business. The truth is, most dropshippers' businesses are just a reflection of them as people. They simply don't care about their customers, and that's reflected in their Trustpilot reviews, the number of chargebacks that they have, and also their company financials. And I'm going to touch more on that later in this video. So we're almost done for operational updates, but there's one more thing I wanted to mention, and that is stock. So I decided to purchase some stock, in fact 86 pieces of stock. Now you may be thinking, yeah, but hang on a minute, you said this is a dropshipping store, why are you purchasing stock, blah blah blah. Well, let me tell you exactly why. A moment ago when we looked at the customer support virtual assistant dashboard or task list, one of their responsibilities was to monitor stock and update me on stock availability. I have an agreement with my private agent that every Monday and Friday he updates me on the stock levels of our suppliers. I say suppliers because we have multiple, okay? Why do we have more than one supplier? Well, in business, nothing is guaranteed, okay? There are many variables and many things need to align perfectly in order for your business to run smoothly. At scale, if you run into operational issues, you better make sure that you have backups in place. So we have 2 different suppliers who create the exact same product for us. And each of those suppliers have different stock levels. So every Monday and Friday, I review their stock levels. If I notice that both suppliers are getting low on stock, then I will purchase stock. I purchase stock for two reasons, okay? First and foremost, if the supplier runs out of stock and their production time is 15 days or 20 days, depending on how busy they are, and I don't take that into consideration, that could mean I have a period of 15 to 20 days where my store is unable to sell products. You've just seen that month to date I did $19,000 in sales, of which about $7,000 was profit. So in that instance, I have two options. I either then switch to the backup supplier and instead start fulfilling from their stock, which is option A. However, if both suppliers are running low on stock, then I need to switch to option B, which is for me to actually purchase the stock. Purchasing the stock does two things. First and foremost, it means that I have a stockpile available and it triggers a restock with the suppliers, which means that product will then go back into production and should be available within 15 to 20 days because I've just purchased all of their remaining stock. Secondly, it reduces the processing time. Okay, typically suppliers will have a processing time of 1 to 3 days. At the end of the processing time, your product is then picked up by the courier and shipped to the customer. By purchasing stock and sending all of the stock from the supplier to my private agent, we eliminate that processing time and orders are dispatched within 24 hours, which means customers get the goods quicker and it further improves customer experience and satisfaction. So for those of you saying, why are you taking stock? This is meant to be a dropshipping store. That's why. Okay, there are perfectly legitimate reasons as to why it's a good idea to invest in stock and when you should do so. Furthermore, if you actually want to brand your products anyway, then you're going to need to invest in a minimum order quantity. Minimum order quantity is a minimum amount of stock that the supplier requires you to purchase in order to brand and customize the product. Right now, this business is 89 days old and I have not yet branded or customized my product. I have branded and customized the leaflet and the packaging so that when customers receive their order, it arrives in a branded box. However, the next step is to get the actual logo added to the product. Again, one thing that most people never bother to do, instead they just sell off-the-shelf products. But brand perception is everything. It allows you to build IP and an asset that you can actually go on to sell. And it also gives you more authority within your niche because you have a bigger brand perception, which means you can then charge even more than your competitors for your products. Plus, you can send the products out to content creators and affiliates and get tons of branded content that no one else can use because it's your product with your logo. And that is the next step for the business. Now, why am I doing it now after 3 months? Why didn't I brand the product straight away? Well, for a few reasons. I didn't brand the product straight away because I hadn't yet determined my sales volume. Now that we have 3 months worth of data and we're selling in multiple markets, I can clearly see what my volume is within each market. I was already extremely confident bringing this product to market because I'd validated it with my 4-step product validation method and I could clearly see search demand in each location. So I knew that people were looking for the product, which is a very good gauge, but it only provides me with an estimate as to how many orders we could expect to receive. Now that we're actually generating sales and we have actual data that is relative to my store, I have actual data to back up my decision to brand the product. Why would I do that? Why would I go through all the effort of branding the product before I even have actual validation? That would be a high risk activity and the reward does not match up with the level of risk. Instead, I preferred to take the low risk approach, validate something with actual sales data, and then proceed to get the product branded. That way it's much lower risk. First and foremost because I've actually validated it with sales data, but secondly because I have actual profit and cash flow to then invest in the minimum order quantity. As I mentioned, to invest in stock and actually customize and brand products, suppliers will usually enforce a minimum order quantity. For me, my product cost is $54 and I have a minimum order quantity of 100 pieces, which means if I want to customize my product, I need to make a $5,400 upfront stock investment, which is going to come out of my profits. As we're now 3 months in and we've built up a decent amount of profit, we can afford to do that and it's much less of a high risk activity. As we now have a business that is generating us more and more profit month on month, that stock investment is much more feasible. So right now, I'm currently in discussions with my agent talking about getting some samples made so that we can begin customizing and branding our product. I personally always build branded, niche-specific high-ticket dropshipping stores. The reason I do this is because I couldn't think of anything worse than selling hundreds or even thousands of different SKUs with some kind of general dropshipping store. I'm not saying that you can't make money by listing tons and tons of products online. You certainly can. It's just not my approach. Because you're never going to be able to transition into a brand. I've just explained to you the cost of me just customizing one of my products, okay? $5,400 upfront cost investment just to get 100 pieces. Now imagine I'm selling hundreds or even thousands of different products. How are you ever going to get enough cash flow to purchase the minimum order quantity required for hundreds and thousands of SKUs? The fact that you're unable to brand your products means that you cannot distinguish yourself from your competition. So you very simply just become an online retailer. Now, the fact that you can't distinguish yourself from your competitors means that your competitors are selling the exact same product as you, likely sourced from the same suppliers. So if you have multiple people selling the exact same product and none of them are able to distinguish themselves because they're all just online retailers, then what happens is you end up having a pricing war, and everyone tries to outcompete on price, driving the sale price down, which means you as a business owner also have to compete with that competitor in bringing your price down to match theirs or to outcompete them, because you are not able to distinguish yourself on anything other than price. It is simply a race to the bottom, which means you can say goodbye to your profit margin. And that is why branded niche specific dropshipping stores win, because you've created your own IP and real saleable asset. Now, not only do most dropshippers go wrong by building a general store, they also think that the only way to increase their revenue is by increasing ad spend, which could not be further from the truth. Before we increase ad spend, we want to squeeze as much as possible from every customer. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how I'm doing that on my store. Now, I actually already explained this concept in much more detail in a previous video I did, which was my plan to take this store from 10k to 100k per month. But let me explain it to you in principle. Before we aggressively increase our ad spend, we want to further increase our average order value. Why do we want to increase average order value? Well, that means we generate more revenue for the same cost per acquisition. If we're generating more revenue and our advertising cost is the same on the front end, that means we have a bigger profit margin. Bigger profit margin means we have more opportunity to scale. I'm currently having samples made for a supplementary product with help from my private agent, which will then be added as a cross-sell available on the product page, at the checkout page, and post-purchase to customers that are already buying the core product that I sell. This supplementary product has the potential to lift my existing average order value by $60 to $180 depending on how I structure the offer. Now, when it comes to structuring the offer, my intention is to run something like buy one for X, buy two and get one free, which is where I got the average order increase range of $60 to $180, because the supplementary product itself will sell for somewhere between $60 to $90. If I decide to list it for $90 and run an offer that's buy two get one free, that would mean an increase on my AOV of $180. Now, the unit cost for that particular product is roughly $10 per piece. However, the actual price and the shipping cost is still to be determined. As I mentioned, I am still sampling this product, which means the product weight and the dimensions are likely going to vary. So I cannot give an exact price at this stage. This product is currently on its way to my apartment in Dubai. As I mentioned, I returned to Dubai on August 4th, so I've arranged with my private agent to send some samples to my apartment, which will arrive as I return. I'm going to make sure I'm happy with everything, and provided that I am, we will then proceed to place a minimum order quantity, which, as I explained earlier, is required in order to have a branded product. Now, another thing that I need to take into consideration when I'm reviewing these samples is how I'm then going to package this with my core product. Because my existing packaging is built for one product and one SKU, if I'm then selling a supplementary product with it, I need to then make sure that it fits in the existing box. At the moment, that is not possible, so I'm going to then need to redesign new packaging for instances where people decide to purchase the core product plus the supplementary product. But then we also need to take into consideration, but what if they purchase an offer such as buy two get one free? That would mean the packaging may need to be able to facilitate the core product plus 3 of the supplementary products. So these are all things that I'm yet to figure out, but it is the natural evolution of the brand. Now, in addition to adding a supplementary product which will be sold with my core product, I'm also adding on a completely new second product. You may be surprised, but the new product I'm adding actually has an even higher product price than my existing product. As I mentioned, my existing average order value is $389. The new product I'm adding will have a product price of $495. I determined the product price through my market and niche research and also my competitor analysis. To do this, I simply used my 4-step product validation, where we identify products that have high demand, low level of competition, products that are evergreen so that we can sell them year round, and of course have a high profit potential. For those of you that are interested in learning more about my 4-step product validation method, I'm actually going to give away the blueprint for free. So all you need to do is click the link in the video description and you can gain access to my 4-step product validation method completely for for free. Now, the best part about my 4-step product validation method is that it is a simple, repeatable process, which means after I've added this second product, I can add a third and a fourth and a fifth. And each time I'm going to repeat the exact same process that I did with product 1. You introduce a new product into a core market, then expand into other markets and other countries. So you're scaling horizontally and also vertically at the same time by increasing your ad spend. As I begin to scale up the product and validate it, I then proceed with customized and branded leaflets and packaging. And then past that point, I then go on to actually brand and customize the product itself. So you can see that what I'm doing here is actually very structured, and there is a process and a blueprint for every step. These are the exact same processes I teach inside of my Google Ads Ecom Academy to all of my current students. And I'm going to speak more about the Academy towards the end of the video. But for now, there's 2 more things that I want to mention to you. First and foremost is Trustpilot reviews. Now, I am genuinely proud to say that so far, my business has been running for 89 days. In that time, I've received 114 orders, and of those 114 orders, I've received 5 verified 5-star Trustpilot reviews from actual customers, which is a 4.3% positive review rate. Keep in mind that many of those 114 orders are still in transit because we have a 6 to 12 business day delivery window depending on the location. So actually the positive review rate is even higher than 4.3%. And the reason I'm proud of this is because typical dropshippers, i.e. my actual competitors, have 2-star Trustpilot review pages with scam claims. These are actual reviews that I've copy and pasted from my direct competitors' Trustpilot pages. Product arrived faulty, I emailed and called for weeks and didn't get 1 reply. Total scam. Like other reviewers, I had the same issue, product broke after 2 weeks and support was non-existent. I called my credit card company to get my money back as the product was total trash. Avoid this scam. It's not difficult to differentiate yourself from the market and build an actual brand when these are the people that you're competing against. There is clearly no care whatsoever for customer experience or any customer support post-purchase. And that is the problem. That is why dropshipping is seen as scammy, because of the people that operate within the industry. But as I mentioned to you earlier, dropshipping is just a fulfillment method. It's the process of getting the product from the supplier to the customer without you ever having to come into contact with it. How you actually conduct your e-commerce business depends on you as a person and your business etiquette. There are cowboys and scammers in every industry, but the reason that I believe it's more prevalent online, first of all, you get cowboys in every business. Okay, let's talk about construction or builders. There are builders out there that will target old people and vulnerable people, giving them unusually high quotes, doing a bad job and ultimately scamming them. But that does not mean that every builder is a scammer. It's the exact same with dropshipping. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do not care about their customers, which gives dropshipping a bad name, because these are young guys, they're living abroad, they've got their feet up, smoking a shisha, sipping a cocktail. They're so caught up chasing revenue screenshots and numbers on a screen that they do not simply care. But that business is a reflection of them as people, and I am not like those people. What I do is unique and very different, and my business is a reflection of me. I build a branded, niche-specific, high-ticket dropshipping store, and I sell high-quality products that people actually want, which is reflected in my Trustpilot reviews. The reason I have 5-star reviews from just 114 orders and a 4.3% positive review rate is because I actually care about my customer experience. And most importantly, I don't stop caring after I've generated the sale. I ensure all of my back-end processes are concrete. I keep customers well informed about their order, delivery tracking, and I even check in post-delivery to make sure that everything is okay. I do this through email marketing, using specific triggers within Klaviyo to send my customers updates about their orders in real time. This is how you build a brand that actually lasts. The huge secret that nobody talks about is simply caring about your customers. And the problem is, most of these dropshippers do not care. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. If you're building an online business, an e-commerce business, and you're selling products to a customer, it's your responsibility to conduct yourself and your business the right way. And that is exactly what I teach my students how to do inside of my Google Ads Ecom Academy, where I take complete beginners from $0 to $10,000 in sales in 90 days or less. I provide a complete A to Z on how to build a branded, niche-specific, high-ticket dropshipping store and conduct yourself the right way. And just like with my e-commerce store, my Trustpilot reviews for the Google Ads Ecom Academy reflect the level of service and care that I provide to each and every one of my students. To date, I've only ever received 5-star reviews from 22 students inside of the academy. No one has ever joined my academy and had less than a 5-star experience. And I can tell you something about each and every one of the students inside of my academy because I've worked with them on a one-to-one basis personally. First and foremost, we have Fabian, who 4 months ago was a video editor and online coach, earning about 2,000 euros per month. Just last month, in June 2020 alone, he generated 70,000 euros with his branded niche-specific high-ticket dropshipping store. All of those sales were generated via Google Ads. I actually met with Fabi whilst I was here in Bali and we filmed a podcast together. Next up, we have Oliver, who joined my academy having already had a successful e-commerce store. He was generating about £170,000 per month, but only with meta ads. I helped him get set up on Google and scale his product into multiple markets. Within 3 months of working together, we took his monthly recurring revenue from £170,000 per month all the way through to £350,000 per month in as little as 3 months. That's almost $400,000 in a single month's revenue. Next up, we have Kyle. He's from the US. Prior to joining my academy, he had 2 failed dropshipping stores, one in fashion and one as a general home decor store. He was not able to generate a profit with either of these stores. He had a negative return on investment. Within just 1 month of joining my academy, we took him to his first $1,000 in sales a day with a 25 to 30% net profit margin. Then we have Sasha, who went from 0 to 500,000 euros in just 4 months. Once again, this was done using a branded niche-specific high-ticket dropshipping store. I can go on and tell you something about each and every one of my students, but I think you get the idea. So if you are interested in building a branded niche-specific high-ticket dropshipping store and working with me on a one-to-one basis, then see the link in the video description for more information. I take complete beginners from 0 to $10,000 in sales in 90 days or less. Now, that is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please show some support by smashing that like button, hit subscribe and drop a comment. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.